For years, many people believed this moment might never happen. After explosive interviews, a best-selling memoir, bitter public disagreements, and endless headlines about royal family tensions, the distance between Prince Harry and King Charles seemed impossible to overcome. But now everything has changed. Months, according to multiple reports, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have quietly brought Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet back to Britain, where the two children reportedly reunited with their grandfather, King Charles, for the first time in 4 years. It wasn't a grand royal event. There were no palace balconies, no official portraits, and no cheering crowds. Instead, it happened behind closed doors, far away from cameras, making people wonder one thing: does this private family reunion signal the beginning of something much bigger? Or is it simply a brief pause in one of the most talked about family feuds in modern history? The truth is far more complicated than many expected, and once you look at everything that happened behind the scenes before this meeting, um, the entire story becomes even more fascinating. For months, royal watchers questioned whether Prince Harry would ever feel comfortable bringing his children back to the United Kingdom. Ever since he and Meghan stepped away from royal duties in 2020, security has remained one of the biggest obstacles preventing family visits. Harry has repeatedly argued that without adequate protection, bringing Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet back to Britain simply wasn't worth the risk. That uncertainty made this latest visit all the more surprising, and reports now indicate that Archie and Lilibet privately reunited with King Charles during Harry's visit to Britain. The meeting reportedly took place away from the public eye at Highgrove House, with Queen Camilla also present. Unlike previous royal occasions, there were no photographers waiting outside, and no official palace photographs released afterward. The family appeared determined to keep the gathering deeply personal instead of turning it into another media spectacle. In many ways, that silence spoke louder than any official statement ever could. Look, the last time King Charles spent meaningful time with his grandchildren was back in 2022 during Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee. At that point, Charles wasn't yet king, and little Princess Lilibet had only recently celebrated her first birthday. Since then, the royal family has experienced enormous change. Queen Elizabeth passed away. Charles became king. MD and Hari released Spare, revealing deeply personal details about royal life. Multiple interviews reopened old wounds. Bellium public trust between both sides appeared to reach an all-time low. Blanda. That's why this latest reunion has attracted so much attention. It wasn't simply about grandparents seeing grandchildren. For many observers, it represented the first genuine opportunity for private conversation after years of public disagreement. Still, exactly what was discussed remains unknown. Neither Buckingham Palace nor the Sussexes have shared details about their conversations, leaving the internet flooded with theories. Some commentators believe this meeting could represent the first small step toward repairing family relationships. Others argue it was simply an emotional family visit with no larger meaning attached. Honest. Right now, nobody outside that room truly knows. And yes. What is clear, however, is that this visit required months of planning, difficult decisions, and overcoming obstacles that nearly caused the entire trip to fall apart. I know, and that's where the story becomes even more surprising. Long before Archie and Lilibet reportedly saw their grandfather, there was a very real possibility the reunion wouldn't happen at all. Security has remained Prince Harry's biggest concern ever since he stepped away as a working royal. Oh. Because his publicly funded protection changed after leaving royal duties, Harry has spent years challenging those decisions while insisting his family's safety remains his highest priority. In the weeks leading up to this visit, several reports suggested Harry and Meghan were reconsidering their travel plans altogether. Some outlets reported that Meghan initially planned to avoid the trip because of ongoing concerns surrounding security arrangements. Other reports claimed last-minute discussions were taking place almost daily as both sides tried to find a solution that would allow the family to travel privately. Eventually those plans appeared to change. Instead of attending public engagements, Harry carried out his scheduled charity appearances largely on his own, while Meghan and the children reportedly focused only on private family activities. That decision dramatically reduced public exposure and helped keep attention away from Archie and Lilibet themselves. For Harry, that balance may have been the only realistic compromise. He could continue supporting causes close to his heart, including preparations for the 2027 Invictus Games, while also giving his children the chance to reconnect with relatives they rarely see. But the reunion with King Charles wasn't the only emotional stop reportedly planned during the family's time in Britain. But reports also suggested Harry hoped to take Archie and Lilibet somewhere, carrying enormous personal meaning, a place connected not to royal tradition, but to the memory of Princess Diana herself. While those reports remain unconfirmed, they've sparked fresh discussion about how Harry wants his children to understand both sides of their family history. And if those reports are true, the next chapter of this visit may prove to be the most emotional of all. For many people watching from the outside, this trip looked like it was all about repairing Prince Harry's relationship with King Charles. But, according to several reports, there may have been another deeply personal reason behind the family's return to Britain. Insiders told multiple outlets that Harry hoped Archie and Lilibet could visit the resting place of their grandmother, Princess Diana, at Althorpe Estate. While those reports have not been officially confirmed by the Sussexes or the Spencer family, they fueled widespread discussion about how Harry wants his children to understand the woman who continues to shape so much of his life. Reports like these should be treated as unverified unless confirmed by those directly involved. Ban for Harry Diana has never been just a chapter in royal history. Ben, throughout interviews, documentaries, and even his memoir, Spare, he has spoken openly about the profound impact losing his mother had on him at such a young age. He has often described trying to keep her memory alive for Archie and Lilibet, even though they never had the chance to meet her. That makes this reported visit especially meaningful. If the family did travel to Althorpe, it wouldn't simply be another stop during their UK stay. It would represent Harry sharing a deeply personal part of his own story with his children, one rooted not in royal ceremony, but in family history. Lamb's many royal commentators believe Diana's legacy still influences nearly every major decision Harry makes. Others caution against reading too much into reports that haven't been officially confirmed. Without public statements from the family, it's impossible to know exactly what was planned or what ultimately happened. Even so, one thing is difficult to ignore. This visit appears to have been carefully designed to remain private from beginning to end. Unlike previous royal appearances filled with photographers and public ceremonies, this trip unfolded largely behind closed doors. There were no balcony appearances, no official portraits, and almost no opportunity for the public to glimpse Archie or Lilibet. That level of privacy stood in sharp contrast to the intense media. Attention surrounding nearly every other chapter of Harry and Meghan's lives. Some observers believe that was intentional. After years of criticism over media coverage, Harry and Meghan have consistently emphasized protecting their children's privacy. So, limiting public appearances allowed them to focus on family rather than headlines. But while the reunion itself remained quiet, it quickly reignited an even bigger question that has followed the Sussexes for years. Could this finally be the beginning of reconciliation? Or were people simply seeing hope where none actually existed? That's where opinions begin to split dramatically. Almost as soon as news of the reunion emerged, social media exploded with speculation. Some royal supporters described the meeting as the first genuine breakthrough in years. Others argued it was simply a private family visit being turned into something much larger than it actually was. The truth is, very little has been confirmed beyond the fact that the family reportedly spent time together privately. And everything else remains open to interpretation. That hasn't stopped commentators from offering countless theories. And some believe King Charles's ongoing health challenges may have encouraged both sides to prioritize family over past disagreements. Others suggest becoming grandparents, and watching grandchildren grow up from afar naturally changes people's perspectives over time. Tamandia. At the same time, there are still many unresolved issues that can't be ignored. Prince Harry's relationship with several members of the royal family has faced repeated strain over the past few years. His interviews, Netflix documentary, and memoir all sparked significant public discussion and criticism. While Harry has maintained that he wanted to tell his own story, some reports suggested those projects deepened existing tensions within the family. Whether those relationships have meaningfully improved remains unclear. Neither Buckingham Palace nor the Sussexes have suggested that years of disagreement have suddenly disappeared because of one private meeting. That, in fact, several royal analysts have cautioned against assuming too much. Private family reunions happen for deeply personal reasons, and they don't necessarily signal a complete change in long-standing relationships. It's entirely possible that this visit was simply about allowing a grandfather to spend precious time with his grandchildren without any broader agreement about the future. Lan. That uncertainty is exactly why the story has captured so much attention. Thrive. People naturally look for signs that one of the world's most closely watched families might finally be moving beyond years of public conflict. But until those directly involved speak openly, much of the conversation remains speculation rather than confirmed fact. Still, one detail continues to stand out. Despite everything that's happened over the last several years, Harry made the journey. Meghan reportedly joined him with Archie and Lilibet after earlier concerns about the trip. King Charles reportedly welcomed them privately. And whether it marks the beginning of reconciliation or simply a meaningful family moment, it's a development few people expected to see. Blails. But what happened after the visit and what it could mean for the future of Harry, Meghan, and the monarchy is where the story takes another unexpected turn. For years, the story surrounding Prince Harry and the royal family has seemed stuck in a cycle. Every new interview sparked another round of headlines. Every public appearance was analyzed frame by frame, and every rumor about a possible reconciliation seemed to fade just as quickly as it appeared. That's why this private reunion has drawn so much attention. Chonda. While Buckingham Palace has remained characteristically quiet about the details, the reported meeting itself is significant because it happened at all. After years of public tension, the king reportedly welcomed Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet for a private family gathering at Highgrove House. It wasn't presented as a royal engagement or a public relations event. Instead, it appeared to be exactly what many people had hoped for: a chance for family members to spend time together away from cameras and public pressure. Ambience. Some royal experts believe that's the only environment where genuine conversations can happen. When every word is scrutinized by millions of people around the world, rebuilding trust becomes incredibly difficult. A private meeting allows people to speak honestly without worrying about headlines appearing the next morning. Of course, that doesn't mean every disagreement suddenly disappears. Years of complicated family history cannot be resolved during a single afternoon. The issues surrounding Harry's departure from royal duties, his memoir, media interviews, and ongoing legal disputes have unfolded over several years. Even if everyone involved hopes for a better relationship, rebuilding trust is usually a gradual process rather than one dramatic breakthrough. That's why many commentators are urging caution. Some headlines have suggested this reunion represents the beginning of a brand new chapter for the monarchy. Others argue that's reading far too much into a single private visit. At this stage, there simply isn't enough confirmed information to know what the long-term impact will be. But one fact is impossible to ignore. Evers. The grandchildren who hadn't visited Britain since 2022 were reportedly able to spend time with their grandfather again. For many people following the royal family, that emotional milestone matters regardless of what happens next. Till another question has quietly become just as important: if this reunion was kept so private, why now? Oh, and could recent events in King Charles's personal life have influenced everyone's decision to make the meeting happen? Blinds. That's where the conversation becomes even more emotional. Life has a way of changing priorities. Bind over the past few years, the royal family has experienced one of the most challenging periods in its modern history. The passing of Queen Elizabeth II reshaped the monarchy forever. King Charles stepped into a role he had prepared for over decades, Tom Bimes Pa, while also facing personal health challenges that have understandably shifted public attention toward his well-being. Yeah. Against that backdrop, many observers have wondered whether family relationships naturally become more important. Balia. It's a question that has fueled endless discussion online. Bean. Some royal watchers believe difficult moments often encourage families to reconnect, even after years of disagreement. Others caution that there is no public evidence proving this reunion represents a lasting reconciliation. Without official comments from those involved, any conclusions beyond the confirmed meeting remain speculation. Prince Harry himself has consistently spoken about the importance of family, even during periods of obvious tension. During his visit to the UK this week, he emphasized how proud he is of Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet, describing them as the center of his life. Those remarks reflected a man focused on his immediate family while continuing his charitable work through the Invictus Games. That combination may explain why this visit unfolded the way it did. Mandahari attended his scheduled public engagements, while Meghan and the children reportedly stayed away from official appearances, allowing any family reunions to remain entirely private. It was a careful balance between fulfilling public commitments and protecting personal moments from becoming another global media event. Uh, Even so, the public fascination hasn't slowed down. Social media remains filled with theories about what was said behind closed doors. Um, some posts claim the meeting lasted longer than expected. Others suggest discussions may have included future family visits or possible reconciliation. At this point, however, those claims have not been confirmed by Buckingham Palace or the Sussexes and should be treated as speculation rather than established fact. Bland, perhaps that's what makes this story so compelling. Not because anyone knows exactly what happened, Bland, but because nobody outside that private room does. Langdon, for the first time in 4 years, grandfather and grandchildren were reportedly together again. Everything else, the future of Harry's relationship with his father, the possibility of rebuilding trust within the wider royal family, and what comes next, remains an unanswered question. And those unanswered questions may be exactly why this story continues to captivate millions around the world. But before drawing any conclusions, there's one final piece of the puzzle that could determine whether this reunion becomes dot a turning point in royal history, or simply a heartfelt family moment remembered in private. Lalia, as the headlines continue to spread across the world, one thing has become clear: this story is no longer just about a single family reunion. It's about what could come next. Bendius, for years, every interaction between Prince Harry and the royal family has been examined in extraordinary detail. A simple handshake, a brief conversation, or even where someone stands during an event has often sparked days of debate. This latest visit is no different, Jen. Because the reunion reportedly happened in private, there's very little confirmed information about what was actually discussed. That lack of detail has allowed speculation to fill the gap. Melinda. Some royal commentators believe this could mark the first step toward rebuilding trust after years of public disagreements. Others argue that people shouldn't mistake a private family gathering for a complete reconciliation. After all, reconnecting with loved ones doesn't automatically resolve every issue that came before. Bientals at this stage, both perspectives remain opinions rather than confirmed facts. Mayans, what's undeniable is that Harry chose to make the journey, and despite years of security concerns, legal battles, and ongoing media attention, He reportedly found a way to bring Archie and Lilibet back to Britain for what many believe was one of the most meaningful family moments they've shared in years. Glaus, that decision alone has prompted many people to wonder whether priorities are beginning to shift. Dine. Over time, even the deepest family disagreements can evolve. Children grow older. Parents become grandparents. Life changes in ways nobody can predict. While those changes don't erase the past, they often encourage people to focus on what truly matters moving forward. Now, some royal observers have suggested that keeping this visit completely private dot, may have been the smartest decision everyone involved could have made. Without cameras document, the family reportedly had the opportunity to spend time together without the pressure of public expectations. Monch, if that's true, it may explain why there were no official photographs or lengthy palace statements celebrating the reunion. Sometimes the moments that matter most are the ones the public never sees. Still, many unanswered questions remain. Will Archie and Lilibet return to Britain more often? Will Harry's relationship with his father continue improving? Bon G, could this eventually lead to warmer relations with other members of the royal family? Dawn, right now, nobody can answer those questions with certainty. Only time will reveal whether this visit becomes a turning point or simply a meaningful chapter that remains private forever. Ablanja. Before closing the book on this story, there's one final reason why this reunion may carry more emotional weight than many people realize. And it's easy to forget that behind the titles, traditions, and worldwide media attention is a family experiencing many of the same emotions as everyone else. Grandparents want to spend time with their grandchildren. Parents want their children to know their relatives, and families often hope that difficult chapters won't define every future relationship. Belanja, for Harry, this reported reunion may have represented something much bigger than repairing public perception. And throughout the years, he has spoken openly about wanting to protect his own children, while also giving them the freedom to understand their family history. Archie and Lilibet are growing up thousands of miles away from the institution their father was born into. Their experiences will naturally be very different from Harry's childhood. This visit, if viewed through that lens, wasn't necessarily about royal duties or constitutional questions. It was about giving two young children the opportunity to spend time with their grandfather. For King Charles, the moment may have carried its own emotional significance. Mean's public responsibilities have always been part of royal life, but private family relationships exist beyond official ceremonies. Spending time with grandchildren is something many people treasure, regardless of whether they're members of the royal family or not. Bullian, that's one reason this story has resonated with so many people around the world. Bindas, despite all the headlines, interviews, documentaries, and public disagreements over the past several years, this reunion reminded people that families are rarely as simple as newspaper headlines suggest. Relationships can become strained, people can disagree, years can pass without seeing one another. Yet, opportunities to reconnect sometimes appear when they're least expected. That doesn't mean every old disagreement disappears overnight. It doesn't guarantee future harmony, and it certainly doesn't confirm every optimistic theory circulating online. Cox. But it does remind us that real life is often more complicated and sometimes more hopeful than the public narrative allows. For now, much of what happened during that private reunion remains known only to those who were actually there. Blingens, perhaps. That's exactly how everyone involved wanted it. After 4 years apart, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children reportedly reunited with King Charles in what may become one of the most significant private moments in the royal family's recent history. Almendia, no dramatic press conference followed, no carefully staged family portrait was released. Instead, the most talked about royal story unfolded quietly behind closed doors. Dobbs, whether this marks the beginning of a lasting reconciliation or simply a heartfelt family visit remains impossible to know based on the confirmed facts available today. What we do know is that the reunion happened after years of distance, difficult public disagreements, and ongoing concerns about security. That alone makes it a remarkable development. Bland's everything beyond that, from future family visits to broader healing within the royal family, remains uncertain. And perhaps that's why millions of people continue following this story so closely. Blandy, because everyone understands that families can be complicated. Sometimes they drift apart, sometimes they surprise us. And every now and then, the most meaningful moments happen when no one is watching. Lambda's new developments emerge, the world will undoubtedly keep looking for signs of what comes next. But until those closest to the story choose to speak, the real conversations that took place during this reunion will remain known only to the family itself.